What's up, guys? I'm back, and today I'm doing another movie review. Today I'm going to be reviewing Godzilla 2014 from the year 2014. So, as you may know, in my top 5 favorite Godzilla movies, I put this movie in my top 5. It is not in that list anymore. Not saying this is a bad movie. I still love this movie, but I just think there's 5 more movies better, than this movie. So yeah, let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into this review. So basically, in 1999 in Japan, this one kid named Ford Brody, it's his dad's birthday, and he loses his mom. Ford loses his mom in a nuclear reactor meltdown. And now we fast forward 15 years later, where he's a EOD officer in I think the Navy, and he finds out that his dad has been arrested in Japan because he's been trespassing. He's been going to his house, his old house, but he's not supposed to do that because it's in a quarantine zone. And he's obsessed with it. He's trying to find out what caused it. A lot of people he thinks that the government is trying to cover it up, but he actually thinks that it is a creature that caused it. So we go to the reactor, and it is a creature. They call it the Muto. This is the male Muto. There's actually 2 Mutos in this movie, and this Muto can fly. But in the incident that happened when the Muto broke out of the its what do you call it, the cocoon, or whatever you want to call it, Ford's dad, which they call it Joe Brody. His name's Joe Brody. He unfortunately dies. And then we get to meet, there's this secret organization called Monarch that is, studying a lot of these monsters, and Godzilla is like their main, study. I don't know I think that's probably not grammatically correct, but we learned that, we also get to meet Dr. Serizawa and Graham, I think that's her last name. Vivian Graham, I don't know. I don't know. But I just watched this movie. I should know. But they tell, Ford Brody, about, in 1954, a nuclear submarine, reached the lower depths, and it awakened something. And basically the submarine was, I believe, destroyed. And all those nuclear tests in the Pacific, they weren't tests. They were trying to kill something. And that was Godzilla. They're saying, like, he's like a god, And next thing you know, we go to Hawaii, and the male Muto is now attacking Honolulu, Hawaii, the airport. And then we get the entrance, and also a little bit before that, the Mutos have an ability. They have an EMP pulse that they can use. It, like, knocks out all electronics, so they can use that. And then Godzilla shows up at the airport, and what he does is that he's coming to shore, and he creates a tsunami. That's how big this Godzilla is. And this movie is really, really good. I should have said that for the end, but Godzilla, comes to shore, and they battle. The male Muto and Godzilla battle, but we don't really get to see it. It cuts away. But then all of a sudden, another Muto has popped up in Nevada. It's a much larger Muto, and that's a female Muto. So they want to reproduce, and they feed off nuclear radiation, same as Godzilla. They tried to bomb, of course, Godzilla in the 50s, but a giant bomb was literally detonated right next to Godzilla's head, and Godzilla made it out unscathed. But yeah, and they're all meeting at San Francisco, the monsters. So what the military wants to do is they want to use nuclear weapons again. Now, they want to send a boat. They want to put a nuclear warhead on a boat and send it out to sea. So all the monsters will go out there, and it'll detonate, and it'll kill them all. But Dr. Serizawa and Dr. Graham, they are totally against, because these creatures feed off radiation. But the government, just ignores them. Because what else do they have to do? But yeah. So they all so the male Muto and female. Well, actually, before that, we get a Godzilla goes and he arrives in San Francisco, and I know, I'm sorry, this review is probably horribly done, but he crashes through the Golden Gate Bridge, which I think is a really, really cool scene. But then the male and female Muto meet in San Francisco, and we see that the female Muto is ready to lay eggs. So she's digging a hole, and the male Muto stole the warhead from the army. So Now it's in the middle of San Francisco, which they can't have that because it'll destroy San Francisco. So they have to go in and retrieve the warhead, and we see Godzilla and the female Muto fight, but then the male Muto joins in, and it's 2 against 1. So Godzilla's basically getting his ass kicked. So, but for Brody, he's on the military team. He goes to the nest. There's a lot of fires in the nest, and he flips a can of gasoline, and just the whole thing just explodes, and that draws the Mutos away from Godzilla to check on the nest. And then we get to see, actually, Four Brody's, like walking away, but the female Muto notices him, and she's like, "Oh, you did it, and I'm gonna kill you." But then we see blue lights, and it's Godzilla's dorsal fins, and he shoots his atomic breath. And there's something about Godzilla's atomic breath was supposed to be stronger in this movie, but I think they stated that the EMP pulses of the Mutos affected the power of Godzilla's atomic blast, so it wasn't at its full potential. Full potential. What am I saying? So the guys bring the warhead to the boat. The female Muto's chasing after them, but then we cut to Godzilla and the male Muto fighting, and Godzilla kills the male Muto by using his tail, and he slams the male Muto into a building. But that building crashes down on Godzilla, and we think that's the last of it. But the female Muto kills all the army guys. Ford Brody goes and he gets the boat started. But then all of a sudden the power goes out, and the female Muto is staring him down again. And as the female Muto is going to kill him, the female Muto stops. And Godzilla's biting down on the female Muto's shoulder. And we get the best Godzilla kill move in all the Godzilla movies, the Kiss of Death. And that's where Godzilla opens the Muto's mouth and just shoots an atomic ray down the throat. And then we get the victory roar. And then the next day happens, and it looks like Godzilla's dead. It looks like he's sitting there. But then all of a sudden, he wakes up and he walks back out to sea. So that's basically the movie, you guys. So now, guys, we're going to get to the stuff that I liked about this movie and the stuff that I didn't like about this movie. First, the stuff that I liked about this movie. I loved how, the shots, the camera angles of the movie. It makes you get a sense of how ginormous, how gigantic these monsters are. That's probably the best part about this movie. The second best part is probably the special effects. The special effects are amazing. They are, I believe I would say they're the second best special effects in the Godzilla series. Number one being Godzilla King of the Monsters. And I also love the soundtrack of this movie. The soundtrack of this movie is awesome. It's very, very nice. Like that dun 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 dun. I love it. It's really, really, really cool. I love the soundtrack in this movie. So now to the parts that I didn't like about this movie. So I don't like how, when we're about to see the final battles, the battles, it cuts away. Like when Godzilla and the male Muto are about to face off at the airport, it just cuts away when we go to a house where people are watching it on a TV screen, and the fight barely even happens. We waited so long to get that shot of Godzilla, and now we cut away. This does that. This happens a lot in this movie. I don't know why. And now the second thing, probably my least favorite part about this movie, is the color of this movie. It is so dark. It's so dark that the battle scenes, it's so hard to see what's going on. You need to watch this movie in a dark room. It's so hard to make out what you're seeing. The best, I'm quoting what a YouTuber said about this movie. The best way to see these fights is on a phone or an iPad screen, just to watch the battle. There's not that much, Godzilla action in this movie. Though I've heard that, he actually has the same amount of screen time as a lot of the other Godzilla movies, but this is a much longer movie than a lot of the other Godzilla movies. And and what I really, really like about this movie, back off the dislikes, now back to the likes, how popular, how big this movie was, being advertised. I remember all the commercials, the one especially where Godzilla's swallowing the cars. That was a really funny one. I just love how big and advertised this movie was. I loved, because the biggest reason why I love this movie is because it brought Godzilla back into the light. It was Godzilla's now popular again because of this movie. And also, here's another big thing that I like about this. It's the most realistic Godzilla movie out there. It's the most, it is how I believe the country, the whole world would react if these monsters were attacking our cities. This is how I think the world would react. That's why this movie is awesome, because it's so realistic. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Make sure to follow me on Instagram, OhMyGodzilla1. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.